ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Big Time, the podcast. And, everyone's kind of in the same boat. We all got free time right now, and I got a couple buddies that we're going to chop it up with today. They do have ties to the area. They have ties to the region. They both went to UMFK for a short stint, but nonetheless, they did have a stint. So we're just going to bring them in. I got my buddies out there on the West Coast. We got Bobby Thompson. And I got my buddies out there on the West Coast. We got Bobby Thompson joining us live. And we got Ryan Johnson. What's going on, guys?
I'm good, my brother. How are you? Good to be here with you.
Ryan, beard game is strong.
I'm about to take it off, to be honest.
Okay.
But thank you. Yeah, I figure I'm not going to see anybody in person for like 4 or 5 more weeks. So now's a good time to start over with this thing.
Yeah. So before we kind of get into things here, just curious as to what the current climate is for you guys. I mean, you guys are out there in ground zero, like one of the first hard-hit areas in the country, this pandemic. Bob, you're coming to us from the office. You're still at work, but what's it currently like out there, out in the Seattle area right now?
I think it's on the downward kick now, which is good. I mean, it was, like you said, it was ground zero. I mean, I think the first case was treated at the hospital 3 blocks from my house. That was the first case in the U.S. I think we're going through a lot of the same stuff that everybody else is now, and we were just the first ones to experience it. But it's definitely it's been an adjustment to life, and it's like I was telling you beforehand. It's more the adjustment for the kids and just trying to get them on a routine now where the daily is at home, and it's that part of it's pretty tough.
Ryan, how about you? How's life treating you? I'm guessing you're on lockdown. Not much going on.
Yeah, they closed the casino. That was one of the first things that was closed, and that was really more just because of the foot traffic had slowed down so much because most of our clientele are Microsoft and Google people. So I mean, they all just stayed home, afraid to go out anywhere. But yeah, it sounds like the rest of the world is getting it just like we did. We just, like Bob said, we just got it first. Now it sounds like the East Coast is the worst place.
Yeah, it's happening. It's definitely happening out here. I'm a little surprised that they didn't put casinos as essential businesses out there. It's a little shocking.
Yeah, people need that fix, but nah, it's been out. So yeah, Declan and I just been getting it to actually Cascade High School. They got a nice track and field there, but like we were there yesterday, and there's a lot of people going there now. So it's like, all right.
The one sneaky thing that did pass, and Ryan, I don't know if you knew this, but the state legislature just passed legalizing sports betting in casinos in Washington State. So that when we come out of this, that's going to be hot and heavy.
Yeah, and that's crazy. Only the tribes got that, so it's not a fantastic thing for those of us who work in other casinos. We were really pulling for it to be an all casino. Like everybody should get that, but yeah, only the tribes got it. But yeah, still be able to sports bet in states other than Vegas for once. That'll be nice.
There you go. So as I mentioned off the top, both of you guys spent some time out here in Maine. You guys both attended UMFK, and I just want to go back. I want to know your journey from the great Pacific Northwest to the beautiful Northeast. But also I just want to talk hoops. You can see it in the background, big time hoops. And when it comes to big time, not really much more big time than basketball out there in the Pacific Northwest. So I'm just curious what it was like for you guys growing up. So I'm gonna start with Bobby. For those that aren't familiar with the Pacific Northwest basketball scene, the Seattle basketball scene, people might know Chicago, they might know New York, Los Angeles. Go ahead and touch on what the Seattle basketball scene is like.
No, man, it's, I feel pretty blessed that I grew up in a region that loves the game and, where basketball was strong and there's a lot of passion behind it, especially, growing up. And yeah, so, I mean, it was no different, for me. I got a chance to, obviously locally here grow up playing with my friends and kind of having those experiences. But then as we got older, kind of branching out and where we're at, we're 30 minutes north of Seattle. And so, it was always in middle school that the want to go down and play those teams from Seattle and the other regions in the area. But it was it was just a great time to really branch out and, and kind of get that experience. And then as my game grew and, I got more experience, I was able to actually join one of those teams in Seattle that was very successful on a club basis, and had some teammates that were, guys like Jason Terry, other guys that went, the program that we were in had, Donald Watts, who played at UW, and a bunch of other guys that, did their thing. And so it was great exposure for me to guys that could really hoop, and it helped me in my high school experience, which was, playing at Everett High, where I now coach. Just a lot of history, and and you know how it is growing up in the fort. Like, you grow up going to all the games and kind of worshiping those guys, then like finally getting a chance to do that and live that experience and have some success. Those are definitely memories of my friends that I'll always treasure.
RJ, how would you describe Pacific Northwest basketball? What's the style like? How do you guys play? How are you guys raised to play? What's the style of play out there?
Man, Bobby was the first one that I'd look to first. So like, he got to look at the older guys. He was just saying, just like growing up in the fort, you'd be looking at the guys that were playing, going to the games. Like, Bobby was one of the ones that I was seeing play before I did. And then being on Bobby's, Bobby had that website, the Fadeaway J. So I got to cover some of those games. It was fun. I mean, like, who did I interview, Bob? Nate Robb, I believe, for one game.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I sent you out on a remote with a camera. You had a press pass that I made on Photoshop for you. Yes, you did.
Yeah, for sure. But to touch on the type of players that were out here, it was really just scores. The freak athletes that had more handle than anybody else, that just had. It wasn't like these shooters that you might see today. Like, dang, man, that kid is just hitting everything, just a 3-point specialist. It was just mostly guards. It was mostly guards that could handle the rock and jump out of the gym. Like, that was what it was like. And I don't know what it is. It's probably not that as much now, even though Tuck, another family member of Bobby's along the way, I guess. Nick's nephew, Bobby's cousin. He just got MVP out here. He's 6'6", another guard that can handle the ball real well, dunk. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back, Jamal Crawford kind of started the whole thing. I mean, as far as like just putting Seattle on the map, and he was so transcendent as a high school kid to be 6'6" with long arms, the handles, and you just need to go back and like really, do a YouTube search on his high school highlights, and they're just so ridiculous. And and it comes at a time where then Brandon Roy comes, Nate Robinson comes, Adam Morrison comes from Spokane, Marvin Williams, Martell Webster, Spencer Hawes, the Stewart twins, which never made it to the league but were phenomenal athletes that played at USC. I mean, just a phenomenal track record of guys that just continued on beyond that. And so I'd say that it's high octane. I'd say that guys out here play with a chip on our shoulder because of just what you said, Tom. People think of New York, Chicago, these LA, these other places, but whether it's Seattle or Tacoma, Isaiah Thomas, other guy that built his rep out here.
Avery Bradley, right? Tacoma.
Avery Bradley.
What's that?
Avery Bradley.
Bellarmine Prep.
Yep. So, I mean, and you could really, we could go all day long with guys that, that ended up in the league making noise. I mean, Zach Levine is from Bothell, which is 20 minutes from my house. So, there's guys nonstop that have come out of here since, and we'll continue to pump guys out because that's just, that reputation, especially with Jamal's summer league now that's played at SPU. It's just, it's a breeding ground for younger guys to come in and kind of, earn their keep.
What's the what's like the outdoor? Is there like an outdoor scene to it? Like what's the park to go to in the area, or what are some of the parks? I see RJ smirking over there.
It's not like what you might think. I mean, it's not like the Rucker. We don't have something that big. But Green Lake was the spot for a while. Like it was you knew there were going to be people there that could hoop. Absolutely. UW had an outdoor court that we used to go to. Nothing really drew a crowd though. Anything like what's probably on your mind when you're asking that.
I mean, when I was in high school and kind of going into my first year, a couple years after that, Green Lake was real because they had an indoor and outdoor court. And there were, I mean, that was back in the days when like Gary Payton and Sean Kemp would just drop in and run. And so you'd be out there playing and those guys would just walk in the gym or walk out to the court. And I mean, and that was, they were, you know, I talk about the Sonics, what really built that pedigree out here for like that, you know, both our culture and then the outdoor game as well was the Sonics and their success in the early 90s. And it really kind of trickled down to Jamal and these other guys that had their jump off. But I'd say Green Lake was a good spot. There's a few spots in the Central District of Seattle. Rainier Vista Community Center now has a great outdoor run. There's a lot of good places where you can go play.
Even in South Everett, the Sonics had donated a court to this church out in South Everett, and I don't remember what year that was. Probably I'd say 2005, something like that. That was a cool court, man. That attracted a lot of people. I was out there often, and like it was like you gotta wait. There was a good run going. That was a cool spot. The Sonics also donated one that didn't get played on and almost got run down in North Everett. But I mean, I was there for the opening of that with what's his face, Rashard Lewis was there. I mean, that was cool to be there. I can't remember who they sent for Desmond Mason, I believe, was on the squad at that time.
Yep.
I think he was there. And I used to hoop with Dez's brother all the time. Just called him Mace. He could jump like his brother, but that was the only skill he also shared.
It's not a bad skill to have, though. I mean, I take that. You guys both touched on the Sonics here, and you know, obviously out here we got diehard New England fans. It's Celtics, Patriots, Red Sox, and that's it. They you know, we're ride or die out here. But what did the Sonics mean to Seattle?
Well, I you know, the Sonics meant, you know, everything to Seattle as far as they were the successful team. I mean, the Seahawks for so long were terrible. Mariners were terrible. So you just live for those winters. And, you know, a lot of people like me getting to go to, you know, 4, 5, 6 games a year as a kid really kind of cemented my love for the game. And so it was instrumental. And then, I mean, it's just they're such a forgotten squad. I mean, especially those early 90s teams. I mean, there's a 5-year window where they're winning 60 games a year. And they're really humming and clicking. And I mean, and unfortunately, you know, it just they never kind of got over the top with that group. But you know, there was a lot of pride in what they brought, and it just, you know, in the last 10 years before they left, you know, outside of, you know, Ray Allen kind of doing his thing a little bit, they just lost luster a little bit, and especially when the ownership change happened with the guys that took it to OKC. But there's definitely a hunger here to have them back. There's no question about it.
RJ, I'm curious, who were some of your guys growing up on those Sonics teams? I don't want to hear Gary Payton and Sean Kemp. I want to know, like, who were some of your guys growing up?
I'll tell you this, in elementary school, I had a teacher that played in the NBA previously. He just moved to Everett to be a teacher. Ralph Tresvant, I think was his name.
Isn't he a new addition?
I'm saying, like, it was Mr. Tresvant. I swear it was Ralph. Could be our Tresvant. We'll go there. But he set up this little basketball league that my school didn't have before, and we had to have, it was 3-on-3, but you had to have four teammates. My dude bought the Gary Payton jersey. My other friend had the Sean Kemp jersey, and I bought the Big Smooth. I had the Sam Perkins jersey. You had to have a girl teammate. So Twee, she had the Detlef Shrimp. Whichever, like, now looking back, I'm like, man, I wish I would have had a Det jersey. But like, as a kid, you didn't feel that way about him. As a young kid, like, you just wanted the main two. But I like Big Smooth, man. He was my guy. He could hit.
Kind of ahead of his time. That big guy would just step out there and just jack threes.
Yeah, I'd say so. We had other players though that I liked. Hersey Hawkins, when we got him, that was he was kind of that shooter type, that just the catch and shoot that I remember watching him play. I don't have as many memories that Bobby's gonna have from the group of guys that made it to the finals, like the Sean Kemp and Gary Payton. I remember collecting the cards. I remember getting the shoes, the jerseys, but like the in-game stuff, it's not as clear on my memory as like when Ray was here. like that's when I was making sure to get tickets with the homies. Like we got to go see Ray, and that was a big deal. So I remember those players, but past that, I can only name drop. I can't really tell you what they played like, but I remember watching Sam Perkins play and like liking his game.
How about you, Bobby? Who were some of your guys besides obviously the All-Stars? I mean, because there were some guys on those teams.
No, I mean there were. I mean, I think that the formative guy. I mean, the guys on that squad. I mean, RJ referenced like Big Smooth and Det. I mean, I actually take it back a little further with like the group that was Tom Chambers, Dale Ellis, and the X-Man Xavier McDaniel. I mean, those guys, they were a three-headed monster in the late '80s, and they made some noise. But I also was a big fan of Dana Barros, so I know ran with the Celtics for a while as well. But Dana got his start here, and so really one of my most memorable games was going to it was Game 4 of the '92 playoffs against Golden State when they had they had Hardaway and they had Mullen and Billy Owens was a rookie and they were stacked and it was a situation where Dana Barros is coming in hitting big threes and Derek McKee is going off before he went to Indiana. And we had a nice and Ricky Pierce. I mean, I get name dropped. I get annoying when my Sonics love, man. So you don't want to get me going. But there's countless guys that I loved growing up, and and it's something that we definitely need to get back. And that's the biggest bummer now that my kids are, my youngest two are 14, and so they're going to go through an entire childhood without having it, which really sucks. But well, maybe get them down to Portland here to watch the Blazers play, which is still a really hard thing for me to swallow since we hated them so much.
It's got to be tough. I can only imagine. Yeah. So I mentioned that both you guys spent time out here, out in Fort Kent, different times, a little bit apart. But we'll start with Bobby. Bobby was out here first. Bobby, you came out here in what, 2002, 2003?
2002.
And my first memory of Bobby Thompson was like what, 6 foot maybe?
Yep. I give me 6 foot. You give me 6 foot. Let's go start there. Let me have it.
6 foot, bald headed. I think you were bald when you came out here. And then I happened to walk in the gym to go watch you guys play pickup. I was probably like 16 at the time. And it was like in between games, and you just started throwing lobs to yourself, and you just had these ridiculous bunnies. Where do the bunnies come from? I mean, you might be on my all-time white guy you don't think that can dunk but could dunk list. I mean, you got to be at the top.
Man, it was just something that I worked out a lot when I was a middle schooler, and I mean, I'm sure. I mean, like the genetics of my father with my hair follicles. He also did bless me with some, some really, some good genes as far as the athletics go, as far as my jumping ability. And so I really started to work on it a lot. When I was a sixth grader, I told myself by the time I was eighth grade, I wanted to dunk. And at that time, I was only like 5'6". By the time I was an eighth grader, I was 5'11" and dunking. So RJ will tell you like he does the funniest impersonation of me. And I'll explain it right now, is I used to just ride my bike like crazy, trying to build up my legs. And he has this thing where he makes fun of me, like going back and forth with my hands like this, looking down at my thighs, like watching them bulge out and like get strong. And so no, it was just a passion of mine. I wanted to be able to dunk a basketball, and so I really worked on that from a young point. I'm not a 2-footed jumper. I go off a 1, but I could go off 1 pretty well once upon a time.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember what the dunk was. You were doing alley-oops. I don't know if you were like at the UMFK gym. The wall is pretty close behind the backboard, so you could toss it off the wall and catch lobs that way. So I want to say you either did that, or correct me if I'm wrong. Did you used to do a alley-oop where you'd run and toss it up behind your back, over your shoulder, and catch it? That might have been the first one. Yeah. Yeah,
so that one, it was mine. The off the wall one in the Fort Kent gym, I got that one watching Desmond Mason when he was in a high school dunk contest at Rainier Beach High School with some high school guys, and so he obviously did it a lot better than I did. But I started doing that dunk in the UMFK gym, and then actually we got to recruit, what was his name, Chris York.
Yeah.
Chris York, he had mad bounce, and so I showed him the off-the-wall dunk, and he kind of took what I did because he was a 2-footed jumper and started doing different things with that. But no, And that gym, the Fort Kent gym, man, I love that gym because it is springy. It was a fun place to play, but I could get up pretty good in there.
Shout out to Chris York too. That's another guy on my probably top 5 white guys. You don't think that can dunk, but could throw it down. So
Yeah.
you came out here at a time where there was some really talented teams. Curious, how did you wind up out here? Because obviously RJ followed suit. Thanks to you, you kind of led the way. But curious how you wound up in Fort Kent.
Man, it's a bit of a long story. I'll try to keep it short. The short version for me is, I came out of high school with some aspirations of where, I wanted to be. I had some D2 and D3 offers, and I didn't really have anyone advising me on that was a good thing. And so I took the thing of betting on myself and trying to go to a CC and get that jump off. And my first year of community college basketball was the biggest disaster ever. And I just had a pretty terrible experience. And it really kind of set me back, more emotionally than anything for about 3 or 4 years. It was a pretty big setback for me. And so I got in a pretty dark place for a pretty good period of time. And then really, my sister went to the college, Albertson College of Idaho, really around the time where, I think it was about, maybe 99, winter of 99. And this is when I'm kind of starting to come out of like my haze of just not being at a good place. And that was when web streaming was first hitting off, and she was playing in a holiday tournament at this place called the University of Maine at Fort Kent. And so I jumped on the UMFK stream to watch her team, which ended up going to the NAI National Championship game. They were a good squad. They beat the UMFK girls by like 95 points. I mean, it was bad.
Yeah, they weren't very good back then, though.
No, and in fact, and this is, I don't know who the listeners are, so I apologize if I'm being derogatory, but they actually had a mom and a daughter playing on the same squad together at the time. Yeah. There was a mom that they were shorthanded. So, it was interesting. But
they made the national news.
They made the news for that. No, for sure. And then, but I stuck around that stream to watch the men's team play because they played right afterwards. And I just really, I don't know. I just kind of liked the way these guys played, and they seemed. It was not what I would have expected a team from northern Maine to look like, and it was kind of around the time I was starting to just kind of recruit myself to some smaller schools out there, trying to look for a clean slate, a nice start, and reached out to about probably 20 schools, and I got about solid responses from 10. But I really forged a connection over the phone with Derek Johnson, who was the coach at the time, and he, he invited me to come out there and recruit. So I was out there 2 months later looking at the school, which actually in and of itself, just discovering how to get to Fort Kent, Maine for the first time was a trip. I flew into Manchester, took a bus from Manchester to Boston, a bus from Boston to Bangor, and I missed my connecting bus to Presque Isle where Derek was going to pick me up. And so I ended up having to get a hotel room. And they were fully booked out in Bangor, and I ended up having to get a hotel room for $25 where a trucker had stayed in it earlier in the day and only used one of the 2 beds. It was the only room left. And so my first Jason Bray, shout out Jay Bray, his mom and stepdad picked me up the next morning and drove me the rest of the way to Fort Kent. And my first Fort Kent experience was seeing that exit and thinking that we were almost there, and quickly discovering that we still had another 2.5 hours to go.
It's a little misleading.
But once I was there, what's that?
It's a little misleading, the sign.
It's quite misleading. And so, but I got up there, and that was when they had Sean Tomlin, Timmy Fair, I think Stafford Bent was a sophomore, hung out there for the weekend, loved it. And then, ended up, actually, I was going to come back there the next year. It didn't work out. And then I kind of moved on from it. And Jim Graffam got the job, and he called me in the spring of '02 and said, you come out here and we'd love to have you. And my wife at the time, or my fiance at the time, Mariko, I talked to her about it, and she said she was willing to go with me. And so we went back.
RJ, I'm curious because obviously Bobby was the plug to get you out here. What do you remember the first thing him telling you about Fort Kent, or when did you first hear about Fort Kent?
When he was taking off, he was selling his car. Like, damn, man, this really happened. Like when it became like a reality, like, damn, you're about to move across the country, man. Like, yeah, it was tough. It was tough to see my friend go. Like, it's not like you get to visit Maine too often. Like, I don't know, and especially at that age, you know, I was a teenager when he left, so it was just like, man, this is forever, bro. Like, you're gonna be, you're gone. Yeah, but no, it was cool, man. It was cool just seeing tape of him, you know, being out there, and like when he came back, he enjoyed his experience. I sure didn't have shit else happening for me, so it was like, yeah, I'm gonna go. Like I couldn't even believe it was an opportunity. So just like, dang, it's cool that Bobby had done that first, obviously.
Yeah, and I want to hear your first trip to Fort Kent story, because like I swear, like everyone I think has that same experience where it's like it's just a nightmare trying to get there. So, what was your first trip to Fort Kent? What was the journey?
Well, you guys both know this next name, David Russo. He, so I fly into, where did I fly into? I flew into Portland. Nope. I flew into Boston my first time there. And Coach Werntgen, S, shout out to S, he had set it up to where Russo was going to pick me up. I can't remember if he got me from Boston or Portland, but regardless, when I got to him, it's funny just how he told me to get my stuff. It wasn't just like, it wasn't openly friendly like I was expecting. Like, you know, meeting a teammate, you know, he's just like, all right, dude, get your shit. All right, like you're who I'm about to hop in the car with for 6+ hours. Like, all right, cool, man, cool. But it was cool. John Mayer had just dropped an album. I remember that. Like, and that was like actually turned out to be a game-changing album. Like, I'm sure what that Continuum. Bobby sent me a copy of that to kind of, you know, like here's a little gift, man. Hope everything's going smoothly. But yeah, that trip with David Russo, got to his house, stayed with him and Billy for like a week or so, which is like, I got there. I think that was the night I met you. And then over at the house, whoever's house it was, there was like 4 people living there, but that house, yeah, I met you. And then like a week later, I think something like that, a week, maybe 2 weeks, I had to stay with them. But then Coach set me up with a room like inside the school.
Like a dorm? Was it like a dorm room?
But it wasn't that. So it wasn't a part of, I was trying to avoid saying dorm because it wasn't in the dorms. It was more like a room with a bed where it was like, I think some staff stayed there sometimes.
All right.
It's tough to explain, but it was on the side of the campus where the cafeteria is. So I was like, all right, it's not a dorm. Here's the point to it, that I was only allowed to stay there one night, and Jimmy and I had just gotten the apartment. And so, but I didn't know Jimmy yet. I didn't know him at all. So we got the apartment. I didn't have a key. And like somehow I end up like leaving Dave and Billy or something. It's like 2 a.m. I can't get into the apartment. This is my like, I haven't been in Maine long. I don't know anybody. I'm supposed to knock on the window to wake up this dude that I don't know at all. Like, so I had to sneak back into into that room. And like, I remember the next morning they were questioning, like, I knew they knew I was in there, but I just played it off like, no, that wasn't me.
Wasn't me.
I didn't get in there. I don't know. Yeah, man.
So the building you're referring to, Bobby, you might recognize, is Powell Hall.
Oh yes, take it back. Taking it back.
I just want to get your guys. We'll get to some basketball stories here in a second, but life on campus, life at UMFK. What do you remember, Bobby?
Well, my wife and I, we actually, before moving out there, we decided, because real estate was much more affordable in the Fort than it was in the Seattle area. We actually bought a house, and so I lived on 10 School Street. I lived right across the street from the soccer field. And so it was the idea that I could live and be on campus was pretty cool. And so, it was great, man. I mean, I could walk to the gym. I mean, it was right there. And, And the campus life, just with all the guys being there, and Powell, and what's the other one, Crocker? Was that the name of the other one at the time? Yep.
Yeah.
And so just kind of always dipping over there and having people over to our spot. You know, we kind of, you know, being 24 and having a house on campus was a good thing. And so, but yo, man, I mean, the biggest thing is just getting used to how cold it was and just navigating how much clothes I had to wear when I stepped out the house. That was an adjustment, but no, it was, everyone was cool, man. I really enjoyed my experience there, on campus. They did that whole spring meltdown thing. That was pretty live.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that. Yeah, that was you know, one of those things that, I don't know if they still throw down like that, but that was a fun week. And no, we just, throughout the year, man, whether it was going to Round Point or going to, what was it, the place in Edmonston, Costigan's. I mean, all those spots. Oh man, it was. You hope that your teammates made it back across that border. I remember there was a lot of coin flips where I'm like, man, are we gonna have these guys tomorrow for the game? But we had a fun group of guys, man.
RJ, I know you didn't deal well with the cold as well. Give me a cold story from your time, just one.
Brisk. That is a brisk neighborhood. Yeah, I mean, we challenge each other to run across street to the gas station in the least amount of clothes. It's like, can you do it wearing one jacket? I dare you. One, I don't know, man. It was outrageously cold. I've never experienced anything like it in my life. I never will experience anything close to it again. It was.
Did it toughen you up? Did it make you a man?
Yeah. You walk outside in that instantly. You're tough. Like, you're here.
I agree. All right. I want to talk a little bit about some of your teammates that you guys both had. So, Bobby, you played with some guys and on a team that was one of my favorites growing up. You know, obviously being from Fort Kent, I used to love the college teams. But those are the guys that I idolized growing up and stuff like that. So, a lot of really good players that came right before you and played with you. Who were some of your teammates?
Yeah, I had the honor and pleasure of playing with just kind of a depth of dudes. I mean, we were deep. We had a really deep squad. You know, we had down low. We had Big Bartis, who I think has to be one of the better post players to have come through Fort Kent.
Yes.
Halfway through the year, we picked up Sean Grenshaw, big 6'10", 6'11" kid who had only kid in college basketball that had a worse hairline than mine. And so he was there. We were really stacked at the wing and the guard positions. I mean, obviously, you know, throughout the year we had Matt Alarcon, we had Clavette, we had Jose Frias, you know, myself, Trey Henry. You know, on the wings we had Gervais, we had Chad, we had Alaquin Veloso, we had Stafford. You know, we had Colin Smith, my man Chris Palladia rounding up the crew. And so hopefully I'm not forgetting anybody. I probably am, but it was Vladi. We had Vladi.
That was a stacked team.
No, man, we were loaded. And so it was interesting, man, because all of us, I mean, anytime you're playing like small school NAI, I mean, like, it's not like, this place, when we were 15 was our first choice. So we've all kind of come from our own battles and our own journeys to get to this place. But I loved being there. And I think that the interesting thing about, when you go to when you're coming in as a transfer, and there was a lot of transfers on our squad, is everyone's coming in with their own agendas, and through the attrition of, just the year, obviously not everyone makes it through that battle. But we persevered through a lot of that, and we had a lot of, I feel like, real memorable, positive experiences together. We had a very successful team.
Did you play with Kenyon?
He was the year before me.
Okay, yeah. Because
I heard a lot of stories. Look, see, man, the funny thing is, like I said, I was supposed to be on that team the year before, and it's not a knock on those guys. I mean, I went and worked hoop camp with Mo Young and Jay Bray and all those guys, and I ended up like spending some time in the fort. And the funniest story I tell people is that the reason I came back home that year was because, and these guys were all good dudes, but they all told me, like, man, I'm sitting there trying to plot out what our goals were for the year, and I think I had 8 different guys tell me their goal for the year was to average 25 points a game. And I'm like, well, man, I don't think we're averaging 200 as a group. So, I mean, I don't know if that's going to be a fit. And so I just kind of saw some writing on the wall that it might not be a great situation that year. But no, Mo Young was a friggin' flyer, man. That guy, he could jump.
A lot of great players, and I'm guessing practices were intense. I mean, I used to go play pickup. I remember playing pickup with you guys, being intense. Fist fights were common.
Regular occurrences. I mean, like they probably wouldn't like me talking about this. So I don't know if they'll end up listening to this, but I mean, day one in Fort Kent, Vladdy gets in a fight with Stafford at Subway, standing in line. Like, they don't even know each other yet, and they got in a fight.
Yeah. And
so that was what kind of set the tone for, just the competitiveness. And they were good with each other as the year went along. I mean, we all got in fights, man, and we all, like, but we also had moments where we really shared, like, you have that teammate camaraderie as well, where you're open and vulnerable and honest. And I think for me, and I wasn't the greatest player on that team. I mean, I brought the things that I brought, but I think that the fact that I was older and at that time, and and I'd had some experiences, and how much the experience mattered to me, as we kind of relationally built, I think that that's probably the one thing I brought the most that kind of helped us, was just that experience and just the importance that this that year played in my life, and I wasn't going to let guys' selfish ambitions kind of ruin that for me, and we had a lot of real honest discussions about that, which led to some really, really, really cool moments for us on the court.
Speaking of older, RJ, when you came out here, you were one of the older guys on the team. Who were some of the guys you played with?
Yeah, I wasn't the oldest guy. I'll point that out, though. I think Craig Dubé was probably our oldest cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, the Lithos were there when I was there. That was Reedus, Gediminas, Edmundus. I met Bardis, but he wasn't out there when I was there. But you and Woogs, Jimmy, and then Dave came. Dave came probably in like December.
Yeah, second semester.
Yeah, he came around then. Who else we had? We had Jordan. Jordan what?
Jordan Allen.
Jordan Allen. Thank you. Darius was on the squad. That's when we had Jay and Goran and Jatuan. I think I just rounded out the whole crew.
What do you remember most looking back at it? I mean, obviously, your college career didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true. We had an international flair. We had a bunch of international guys. So your time didn't quite pan out probably as you planned it or were hoping to when you came out here. But looking back on it, what are some of the some of the guys that stick out? Maybe some moments. What kind of resonates in your mind looking back at your UMFK basketball year?
Yeah, it was similar to my high school experience. Like, I just didn't put any effort into the schooling part of it, and obviously that's going to bite you, which seems to be a lot of problem in community college in that time frame. I was just more of a head case than anything. Just it was a lot to juggle, just being that far from home. I don't know. So I'm lucky I connected though with that's the thing. I just put the social aspect in front of everything. Made a lot of great friends out of it. Like, I don't take anything bad. I just wish I would have had a different basketball experience. Like, I wish I had the grades that were there to get me the court time, because that's really when I got good. Like, is kind of right. Like the year before going into Maine, like going to Maine, like that's when my basketball performance was at the highest at that point. But no, I have so many great moments from that place. Like, I always want to visit the people there, like the town. Yeah, there was fights, like Bobby said, not really as much on our team. I really don't. I can't think of one fight in practice. I just remember Dave Russo was like, he was kind of the enforcer, I guess, of that. But I don't know, that basketball was also still different then. That was still kind of like the harder type of fighting wasn't unheard of. So yeah, it was a good experience overall. Honestly, like the friends I made out of it, connecting with you and Dave, we're still very close. The Lithos, I mean, it's the first time I've been out of the country, and I flew to Lithuania to go see those guys. So that was a cool experience.
Basketball part might not have been fun, but boy, we had some fun though. We
Oh
had
man, I mean everything Bobby was naming about Canada and like the places that you went out, like all of that just started going right back in my head. Like, man, I remember that. I remember going out with Tom. I remember a lot of that stuff pretty clearly, man. Like our trips to Canada, the late night trips, just being in that cold. But going out, going to your parents' house, that's a great memory of mine. Just being out there, just hanging with them, being out at your cabin. That was fun stuff. And shout out to a couple friends that were not on the team, but I made good friends with through Bobby. That would be Lance Morin and Matt Burgoyne. I got to be real close with both of them. Yeah, there's so many more positives to take away from the experience than just the poor basketball experience that I had. Even it wasn't even poor. I mean, like I was, got to practice, got to be on the squad. It was still fun. I just didn't have the grades to make it happen. But I wouldn't take it away as a negative of anything anymore.
There you go, kids. Moral of the story: do your schoolwork. Do your schoolwork.
That's right.
Bobby, I want to ask you this: having you were able to play, and you played against you guys played a lot of the teams in the state at that time. I think you guys were in the MAC or the Sunrise Conference at that time. I know like a lot of people, they kind of sleep on D3 hoops. I mean, UMFK was an NAIA school, but pretty much played a D3 schedule. Can you just talk on the level of competition? I mean, like I said, people may look down on you saying, "Oh, I went to Fort Kent or I played in Maine," but there's no shortage. There was no shortage of talent on your team, and in terms of the schedule, I mean, you guys played against good players all over the place.
No, I mean, absolutely not. And I mean, I think the thing is that, NAIA, I mean, I tell the kids I coach now is like, you cannot look at going to an NAIA school or a D3 school as like, as a failure. It is a very much an achievement, and it's, something you should celebrate because it's a high level of hoop. I mean, we had in our league at that time, I remember Fisher being very, very good. They had dudes that had transferred from Boston College and some other D1s. They were pretty top loaded with their top 3 or 4 players. We beat them 2 out of 3 times that year, which was nice. Husson was just loaded. And they had guys, and they were really that program that was steady. And what made them good was the fact that they kept guys year after year after year. They truly matriculated through their program. And so they just had a maturity about them that was tough for us to kind of battle against. So they were the one team that we had a hard time with. But no, man, I mean, Machias was good. Umpy was terrible. We gave them the business every time we played them. They're real bad. No, I'd say they're really outside of, Husson. I mean, it was, we were playing the Linden States. We were playing out over in Vermont. I can't remember the College of St. Joseph's. Yeah, it was the Sunrise, and it was, it was really, really good basketball, man. And then it was, for us, we also got the chance to go up to Canada and played against Prince Edward Island, University of UPEI, and beat them twice, which was good. And then went out to Cali and played a couple schools out there. So no, the level of play was rock solid. And whether guys stuck around Fort Kent and finished out there, like that was my last playing experience, or I mean, Jose Frias ended up going to a D1 out of UMFK. And other guys moved on and played at really high levels as well. So no, it's no joke, man. And really, I think the other thing I would say too is I was growing up, like you talked about my love of Seattle basketball and kind of what we view out here, and we definitely, like I said, that chip on our shoulder we have. I carry that everywhere. And I went into Maine like feeling like, man, ain't no one from Maine gonna hoop against me. I had that whole kind of I never showed it, but it was inside. And I just came away so impressed with the quality of basketball in Northern Maine. Just to play in the county, it was really, really strong. I mean, guys like Clavette and Gervais and you guys coming in the gym and being gym rats and just loving the game. I just fell in love with the culture of basketball in the county. And so that's why I still listen to all your podcasts. I can hear that passion that comes through in people with the way y'all love basketball. And that's why I feel like I truly connected to that place.
Absolutely. So I got a couple more things I want to touch on here before we get out of here, because we might dive in deep to these. These may take a little bit of time, but I want to make sure we hit on these. So obviously, RJ, you didn't get a chance to play during the season, but that doesn't mean that you haven't hooped. And that doesn't mean that you haven't hooped against some really talented players. And that doesn't mean that you haven't hooped against professional players, all right? You play with some of the best female professional basketball players on the planet. Tell us about your role or your affiliation with the Seattle Storm or the WNBA.
Just happened to know the assistant coach, so I just happened to get on a feed that they needed some players. It's like, of course I'm going to take that opportunity. Like, Sue Bird, why would, who in their right mind would pass that up? You just get to go, and since I kind of knew about it anyway, and by it, I mean men playing against women, like that these women's team have a men's team that they call on, like all colleges have this. And so from having friends that played on the white squad at UW, that's the guys team that goes against the girls team, and playing against them all summer and being friends with a lot of them, one of the girls ended up being on the Seattle Storm. So Sammy Whitcomb, I got to, she was there when I was there. So Sue Bird was injured at the time that I was on the practice squad, so I didn't get a hoop with her. But meeting her, talking with her, shooting around with her, absolutely, she's dope. Just it's cool to talk to a legend like that. But I did get to play against Breanna Stewart, and also dope. She's gonna be a legend. She's incredible. But yeah, it was fun, man. It was an incredible experience.
And one thing I like about you, doesn't matter who you go up against, you go hard. If a girl,
hard against these girls, I'm giving them 110. They're professionals. They're getting paid to do that. I'm not. I'm selling out.
You're not afraid to throw an elbow, to take them down low, to put them on the block. You don't care. So tell me about who are some of the ones you actually matched up with, in.
Breanna and I went heads.
Okay, and she must have had a size advantage on. She's like 6'4", right?
She's taller than I am. Yeah.
And also, real quick, for those that don't know, she was WNBA MVP, I think, 2 years ago. I think she coming back from an Achilles right now. But I mean, I think the Storm she just won a ring and won MVP in the same year, right? That was 2 years ago. All right, so she's probably the best female player in the world. What happened when you guys went head to head? I want to hear this, and then I want to hear her side of things later on here. But I want to hear your side first.
She's the MVP. She's extremely hard to guard. Like, I mean, when her jump shot, like she has a set shot. So being 6'4", it's already taller than I am, and then it's a high set shot. And she hits consistently, man. And they're setting hard screens out there. So it's like you're playing through this stuff. You have to get there. If you're not in time, she's making you pay. There's nothing you could do. But on the flip side of that, I'm not just gonna say like I was useless. Like, no, I picked her a couple times. I scored on her on the other end. Like, and yes, these are good feeling moments. Like you're humbled the second you get on the court, real quick. Like, that these women, they handled the rock better than you do. They're in better shape. Like, they're go. And so you have to bring what you have, which is the knowledge of the game, my passing ability, and like I'm a good defender. So I mean, those are kind of, it's instantly harder to shoot with a girl's ball. So I wasn't looking to get my shot off. But you find the ones that do want to get their shot off. So I got to run. Kelsey Plum was there when she was in like kind of a limbo between them and San Antonio, and like she hadn't gone yet, or whatever the case was, that she hadn't gone to San Antonio yet. So I got to hoop with Kelsey Plum. She was
number 1 overall pick in her draft class. For those that don't know,
she what now?
She was the number 1 overall draft pick in her draft class.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you,
Yeah, she's
do you
nice.
do you talk shit out there when you're playing with the women?
Of course, no.
Okay.
I'm grateful that I'm at the Seattle Storm practice. Like the fact that they're allowing me to be there, I'm showing nothing but gratitude and just trying to thank them by working as hard as I can. And it's like, dang, when you're not in practices and like I haven't been, like that up and down speed, it reminds you your lungs disappear quicker than you think they would.
And then my last question in regards to your Seattle Storm practice days. Did you try to steal any practice gear whenever you walked out?
Nah. They gave us a shirt though. So I mean, I got gear out of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to touch on there, or did we pretty much cover it all?
uh yeah, I mean that pretty much covered it. It was cool. It was a cool experience, man. Yeah.
Bobby, I want to bring you back in here now. So I got to go. I've been out to Seattle a couple times now to see RJ, bump into you a couple times. And one of my journeys out there took me to this beautiful town in Eastern Washington called Spokompton for the infamous Hoop Fest. Could you please explain to our viewers what Hoop Fest is?
Well, Tom, Hoop Fest is the biggest 3-on-3 basketball tournament in the world. It every year attracts around 25,000 players to downtown Spokane the last weekend in June. There's about 250,000 people that are down there watching, and it's kind of if you're a hoop head, it's kind of the mecca, man. I mean, it's there's 500 courts going off at the same time, and you just continue to walk and watch basketball nonstop. And yeah, and playing in it it's a lot of fun. And so I know that you had the experience once with RJ. It was you, I think, Big Dave played as well, if I remember correctly. And it's everything it's cracked up to be. That's for sure.
So they have like different tiers, different levels out there, right? And the highest upper echelon, you get some hoopers that go and play in there. Like you remember some of the guys you've seen through the years that have gone and played in that.
Yeah, no, I mean it's pretty much every guy that's ever played for Gonzaga. When they wrap, they end up playing in that. They always get like retired NBA guys that are coming in. So yeah, I mean, I remember one year they had a squad of Gonzaga guys that was like Dan Dickow and all the guys from his crew that were just in the NCAA tournament. I mean, that's an every year thing now. But no, that open division for the 6 foot and over and 6 foot and under is it's absolutely no joke, man. It's guys that can flat out hoop. So they fly in like the champions of the FIBA Europe, and they hoop it up stuff, and they bring everybody in to be in this tournament. And and the funny thing is the guys. I mean, the one year I'll remember that where they brought in an NBA group of guys. It was JR, and this is old school, like early 2000s, but it was like JR Henderson, Sean Rooks, Toby Bailey, like all these kind of just role player NBA guys came in and thought they were just going to do it, and they were 0-3. They just got waxed by like these Spokane squads, and so it's a different style of game, and it's I don't know, and there's a difference definitely between the style of play in Eastern Washington than Seattle, and so there's that kind of that good conflict that takes place between the west side and the east side as far as basketball goes there too, which is fun.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on one more thing there, and then I'll ask RJ a little bit about Hoop Fest. So you mentioned the East versus West thing. Gonzaga has become one of the premier programs in the entire country, but out there in Seattle, you've got UW, the University of Washington. Has Gonzaga become the state's team, or what's going on here? Or is it still UW's?
It's not really a rivalry anymore, man. I mean, it was, growing up for me, and that was always just kind of a fluff game on UW's schedule. They would wax Gonzaga every year, and then when Gonzaga made that jump in '99, there was about a 5-6 year window there where those games were very competitive, and then I don't think UW's beat them in probably 13, 14 years. They put a hiatus on the series for a while because there was some recruiting shenanigans that UW did in trying to get one of Gonzaga's guys, and so it was off the schedule for 3 or 4 years. But I think the closest, I think UW this year lost to them by 2, and that was the closest game in like the last 10 years. It's not been a rivalry recently. So yeah, I think it's unfortunate, and I like Gonzaga, but I love UW more. This is Gonzaga State.
It's weird because it seems like UW produces NBA talent, like the better NBA talent, but Gonzaga is just the better program.
No, and it's sad because UW has all the resources to be special, and I believe in Coach Hopkins, what he's got going on at the U right now. They had a rough year this year. They had Isaiah Stewart and some other guys that are going to be Jaden McDaniels. They'll both be lottery picks in the NBA, and they finished somehow last in the Pac-12. That doesn't make any sense, but they'll be there. They're going to be all right in the future. But no, Gonzaga is just their machine at this point, man.
And speaking of UW, RJ, you took me out there. We actually got to hoop. I don't even know what the arena's called. What's the arena called on campus?
Heck Ed.
What's
Heck Edmondson Pavilion?
Yeah. So you took me there. We actually got to play on the floor. Stole a Romeo. What was Coach Romeo's name?
Romar?
Romar, Coach Romar. Yeah, we stole a couple of Coach Romar basketball camp T-shirts. Isaiah Thomas was in the gym that day. Saw Isaiah Thomas. Good times. Real quick, I want to hear your take on Hoop Fest. I mean, I know you've played in the co-ed league out there. Once again, throwing elbows. You don't give a shit. But do you have any moments that kind of stick out from your Hoop Fest days?
It's been fun every year, man. It's a different experience every single time. I hoop with Bobby. I hoop with you. I've hooped with girls. I've hooped with another set of friends from high school. Yeah, it's been fun every year. Every year you see somebody famous. And that's a cool thing. I think Kevin Durant was out there one year. I didn't see him, but he was out there a couple years ago. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was out there a few years ago. I saw Jamal last year. I played against Jamal before, so that's been fun. But he's incredible. But yeah, it's just cool to be there. There's so many people, and everybody's out there for basketball. And like Bobby said, the Gonzaga guys pretty much win that 6 foot and over elite every year. But then the dude, Bobby will know this name, Darryl Walker. His team won the 6 foot and under, and that's the Everett Community College's longtime coach. It's his son, and I think Derek actually took over the team for a little while.
What I'll say is this: is that one of my biggest basketball regrets was the summer I came back to work hoop camp in Maine. I was slated to play in the 6 foot and under with some guys from Concordia College in Portland. And but I had to bail on that to go to hoop camp. I got a call on the loudspeaker hoop camp the Sunday night. Hoop Fest wrapped. And I'm like, these dudes are not calling me for no other reason than they won the whole thing. And the team I was on, or supposed to be on, won the 6 foot and under open. And it was, and I didn't talk to anybody the rest of the night. I was so brittle. And so that's a big deal. So yeah, but then the next year I was on that team again to defend the championship, and we lost to Daryl's team who won it all. So yeah. Anyways, sorry, that's rambling on.
I just hit him with that. Dang, I didn't know that story. Yeah, and I'm smiling as you're telling the story because I already knew where you were headed with it. There's no other reason to call someone like at that time on that Sunday night, That's tough, man. Who was on that team? Was Sam Nunez on that one?
Yeah, and a couple of his guys from Concordia. Yeah.
Damn, that's a tough one.
Tough times right there.
Tough times.
I got one thing I want to do before we get up out of here. So I know we've been throwing around some ideas. You guys been throwing around some ideas for some top fives and stuff like that, which we could do a whole entire spinoff with you two guys. Just we can go so many directions, but I want to do a quick top five here. And I didn't tell you guys ahead of time because I just thought about it about 90 seconds ago. But what I want to do is get a top five from you guys of jerseys you wish you could own. So it doesn't necessarily need to be like I don't want you to say Michael Jordan number 23 Bulls jersey. Like I want you guys to just give me, it could be like your favorite player or just like a real deep cut like of a jersey you would like. to own? I want your top 5. So if you guys need a moment to think about it,
I can tell you one thing that I'll count as one of my 5 would be the Larry Bird shooter jacket.
Okay, that counts.
Yeah, that would be something cool. I liked the Hornets jerseys back in the day. So like an old Kendall Gill would be very dope.
Okay.
That's 2 off top. Bob, go ahead if you got any. I'm still thinking.
I would probably go with a throwback. I would have gone with a throwback Stephon Marbury Lincoln High School jersey. Once upon a time, that would have been a want. I had this want at one point to have a Franco Harris played for the Seahawks for 1 year in 1984. I think he played like 3 games. I would really love to have a Franco Harris throwback Seahawks uniform. Hank Gathers Loyola Marymount jersey. I would love to have that. I'm at 3 right now. Oh gosh, how about a Steve Scheffler Sonics uniform? That would be that. And if you don't know about the chef, he was the best towel waver of all time. And then last but not least, I would love to have a Tom Bard UMFK jersey.
I got that. I might be able to just mail that out there.
Okay.
I like that. It wouldn't be as fire as a Jimmy Lopez UMFK jersey, but
Yeah,
it would be pretty fire.
You got any other ones you could think of, RJ?
Yeah, like 2 Warrior jerseys. I'd like the old Latrell, the blue with the gold, and I'd also like the Baron Davis, the gold. Remember the jerseys that they had when Steph first came in the league?
Yeah, I think they call it the We Believe Warrior jersey.
They're the ones like where the Warriors holding the lightning bolt. It looks like. I think that was what Baron was wearing when he banged on AK. But that'd be a good one. And an AI, get a dope AI jersey.
Like that.
Tom, what about you, Tommy?
The ones I came up with is I want a Marcus Camby Toronto Raptors jersey. I want a Los Angeles Laker Nick Van Exel jersey. What were the other ones I just thought of? Steve Francis Rockets jersey, the old school ones, like where they saw like the rocket ship going up, like the ones that the Hakeem and them used to wear.
Yeah,
like that one. I'm at 3.
Oh, Hakeem, that would be a dope one. The red with the white rockets, that would be it.
I can't think of. I got one more. I can't think of a good 5th one off the top of my head. But and then you guys will like this one. I want a Robert Baker Sonics jersey.
Robert Baker.
Oh, I'm sorry, Robert Swift. Robert Swift.
Oh man, you were mixing. You were missing Vin. Yeah, you were mixing Vin Baker and Robert Swift. 2 nightmares. Get out of boy. Jesus Christ.
I want a Robert Swift Sonics.
So if you had, the one you said, if you could get I'd actually want a Marcus Camby UMass jersey.
Yeah,
that would be the one.
Yeah.
That would be sick.
Yeah. If we're going college jerseys, I'd want a Kenyon Martin Cincinnati jersey.
Ooh, okay.
That would be a cool one.
Yeah. So we'll have to do another one of these episodes. We'll just we'll put some topics together ahead of time and just give you guys some time to research and come up with some shit here. So, but before we get up out of here, I always give my guests a chance to take the floor, say anything they want to say. If you guys want to break news, love to break news on Big Time. If you don't have any news, if you just want to clear the air and anything, RJ, maybe.
Stay inside, go outside. I don't give a shit what you do, man. Just be healthy and just be respectful of others if they feel like staying inside is the thing to do right now. If you gotta get out there, man. It's a weird time.
All right, Bobby, you got anything you wanna say before we get up out of here?
Yeah, first of all, great public service announcement, RJ. That was nice. I would say for me, I'm bummed because of all this, because I was actually bringing my high school team out to Fort Kent this summer to play in the UMFK Summer Classic, but we will be back there in the summer of 2021. So looking forward to that.
All right. And you guys are going to get a kick out of this here because we talked about Fort Kent and the snow and the cold and stuff like that. I'm looking out my window right now, and it just started snowing, and we are supposed to get 6 inches of snow today. That's what's coming down right now. So
April 9th. April 9th. Let's just let that be known. It is April 9th right now, and it's snowing.
But I will say, I'm in Bangor, and there's no snow on the ground. It's grass. It was 50 degrees yesterday. It's going to be 60 degrees on Monday. So this is a little bit off the radar. But yeah, nonetheless, it is snowing. How perfect the timing. But I want to thank you guys for coming on. A couple really, really good friends, guys I like, guys I appreciate, guys I respect. So thank you for you guys for doing this. Hopefully you guys are able to get through everything going on out there. And like you guys say, kind of get through this quickly here sooner than later. So thank you for coming on. Thank you everyone for listening. Make sure to check out all of our previous episodes out there on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Check us out on the gram. And we'll see you next time. Later.